It's bad enough trying to save your own money without people getting into your accounts and taking whatever they wish. So today I'm going to talk to you about buyers beware and what you can do and what can happen with your accounts when you're using credit cards and other things like this. A little bit of a personal story that might help you to understand what can potentially happen if you're not keeping a really close eye on your bank accounts and your credit card statements. That's super important that you're doing that. December and January, from my personal experience, seems to be when the thieves really show themselves. When they really show up and they're expecting you not to notice because you're distracted by holidays, all the busyness, and they know that you are buying gifts and that there are transactions going through, and they're hoping that you're not going to notice them in between. Especially, one of their tactics is to make small purchases, very small, $9.95, $8.95, $28.95. They try to make these smaller transactions so that you will not call up your bank or your credit card to call out their fraud. And their tactic is extremely effective. And I can tell you this, I have been hacked and fooled more than once. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. Many, many years ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and I was in my early 20s, I had purchased through an infomercial some chef knives for my husband for Father's Day or his birthday or something. Every time he saw the commercial, he would say, "Oh, I want those, I want those." So finally I was like, you know what, that'd be a really nice gift for him. And I went ahead and called up and ordered the chef knives. And I don't know, a couple months later, I got a phone call, someone trying to sell me coupons. And I thought that was just really random. And I was like, why would I pay to save money? Why would I pay? And they said it was a lot of money too. It was a lot. It was like $30 a month or $50 a month or something crazy. And I was like, that's insane. Why would I pay that much money to save money? And I told them, no, I do not want this. That is not something I'm interested in whatsoever. So with a very definitive no, shortly after that, we moved. And because we were moving, we had lots of transactions. We had to get all the stuff to do the move, and we were distracted because we were moving and busy. So I didn't catch it that year that they went ahead and debited my account $300. And then the next year, the same time of year, they debited my account $200. And that one I caught. And they used a really weird name that had the alphabet in it. And my bank would not reverse that charge because they said, you're a teacher and this looks like an educator expense. And I said, absolutely not. I had called with the place and I asked them, what was this bill for? And they said, oh, you are enrolled in this Super Savers it's not called Super Savers, it's something different. It was like, you're like this account where you're going to be saving all this money. Frequent flyer miles and all this kind of stuff. I said, I don't fly anywhere. Like, we don't go on vacation. If we go somewhere, we go to Oregon and we drive there. Like, I would never pay $500 for some kind of perk that might save me money on an airline ticket. There's just no way. This is crazy. And I said, you guys charged me twice. My bank would not, I talked to them first and they said, we're not going to reverse it. So then I called my bank and I told them this is fraud. And they're like, well, how did they get your credit card? How did they get your card number? And I said, well, the only thing I can think is I had purchased these chef knives on the phone and they must have sold my information. And the people said, well, why would you even think that they sold your information? That seems like a stretch. And I said, well, I used to work for a newspaper company as a telemarketer. And I know for a fact that companies buy and sell information. And I saw billing information that had been sold from being sold to and from a newspaper company. And I'm like, that's how they got the information. When they bought the lead, when they buy a lead, sometimes that information is included. That is how they got my information. But the bank said, you know what? You let a whole year go by, that $300 is gone. And it says the alphabet in your transaction. So it must have been an educator expense. And I said, at that time, I only made like $1,700 a month. My rent was over $700 a month. My student loans were over $400 at that time. They're way more now. And I was like, there's no way I would have spent $500 on coupons. My bank did not get me anywhere. So do not ever give out your actual bank number on the phone or even through Amazon, Walmart.com, all that kind of stuff. Never use your actual bank account. That is real money, and when it's gone, it's really gone. Don't do it. To the first part of this little story, I did get some good news because I thought, you know what? Parents, when they call up the school and they throw this wild fit, they always seem to get their way. So I called up the company that ripped me off $500 and I threw a wild fit. And I said, I'm going to my lawyer and I've already contacted them. They told me that I need to let you know that this is what I'm going to do and that I'm going to be reporting you to the Better Business Bureau and I'm reporting you for fraud. And I said, and they said, well, we can do this. Well, I can ask my manager, blah, 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 blah. You have 30 days, I'll get it back into your account. And I said, no, you've got 24 hours. If that's not in my account by tomorrow at this time, I'm going to go ahead and proceed. And guess what? 24 hours later, that money was back in my account. So I was really lucky. And if they were truly true thieves, I don't think I would have gotten it back. I think they are a legit company, but I think they might have had somebody on their side who said, yes, that person wanted it, but I didn't say yes. I said no. And I know that telemarketers do this. I don't think telemarketing is quite so prevalent these days, but I know that they did that because when I worked in the newspaper company, I would call up and I worked there for like a month. I hated it. And I would say, would you like to have our newspaper? You can get the whole week for the price of the weekend, or you can get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the price of one day. And the people around me, but I would hear them say, can I confirm your address? And even if the person said no, they didn't want a subscription, they would say yes, as long as the person said, yes, that's my address. The second they would say yes, they weren't saying yes to the subscription. They were saying, yes, that's my address. But the second they would say, yes, that's my address, the person would say yes for the order. And then we would get all these calls later to cancel. Meanwhile, it might have been a month or two of funds that the company got, and they weren't really strict in watching what people were doing. And the reason why they were doing that was because we would get a little bit of a commission on how many sales we had. And we'd also get like little raffles, and they would have prizes for us. The more you sold, the more you got. So my sales were terrible because I absolutely would not engage in that kind of behavior. But I knew it happened, and I knew that that company was legit. So even with legit companies, that as soon as you say yes and you're confirming your address, they are confirming a sale. So say no. Keep an eye on your accounts and just keep an eye on them. Especially this time of year, things are really ramping up. People know you're busy. We're all kind of bouncing back from the holidays, and they are still in the process of scamming you. And there are revolving fees that you might not notice because they might happen just once a month or once a year. And that's what happened to me. So I had gone online a couple times. Once I was looking for like the driver's ed manual for one of my kids. They wanted to study the driver's ed manual while we were driving on a road trip, and I thought, I think I can download it with a PDF. And I found this website that looked like a government website. It looked like it was probably the Department of Licensing, but it wasn't. It wasn't them. It was super shady how they did it. They made it look like it was the Department of Licensing, and it was not the Department of Licensing. And it said something like, oh, you need to put in a couple dollars so that you can get this PDF. And I was like, that just seems kind of weird because I think they give them away for free. But it looked so legit. And it was one of the first first couple websites that popped up when I typed in driver's ed manual or driver's ed study guide. And when I downloaded it, so I paid for it and downloaded it, and it was literally, the instructions were to go to the Department of Licensing to get the guide. Like, they charged me like $10 to tell me to go to the Department of Licensing. And I was like, oh my God, that is so stupid. But how smart, because they had given me advice and it would be a billing dispute, not considered fraud. So obviously I didn't really follow up with that. And I didn't get any other charges on that particular one, but it was definitely fraud. So make sure that you know when you're going to a website that it's legitimately that thing. And usually they're not charging you if it's a government site. So be careful. And just, if you have that feeling in the back of your mind, like this might not be right, trust it. All right. So I will be honest. I've been having some memory issues. It comes and goes. Like, some days I have great brain days and some days I've got this brain fog. And last year when I went to it was last year. Last year when I went to do my taxes, I needed to know how much money I had paid on property tax. And I remembered I could go to the county auditor online to get that information. Well, I must have typed it in wrong, and it brought me to a different site that looked very similar. And I put in the information for my address, and then it said you need to pay $8.95. And so I was like, that's weird. They never charged me before. Maybe they're getting cheap. And there was this thing in the back of my mind going, this is weird. But I did it. I put my information in, and then it says, like at the very end, it's like, oh, if you want to download this now, you have to pay another $1. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll pay another $1. I already paid the $9. So then I didn't notice it, but they charged me $8.95, $1, and then $6.95. And if that's all that had happened, I would have let it go. So I didn't realize it because I had it on a credit card, and I'd get my statements and I would skim through, right? I'd skim, and I was mostly looking for big things, right? Things that stand out. The name on there was very benign. It seemed fine. It wasn't like a bunch of random numbers or something I didn't recognize. It just didn't stand out to me. It started off with $9.95, $9.95, $9.95, $9.95, $9.95, and then it was $28.95, $28.95, $28.95. And so I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it at all. So I finally noticed it. And I said, what is this price? What is this? And I was like, if it's a legitimate business, you're going to get emails with receipts. And I went through my email and I typed in the name of the company. And all I had was an email I sent my husband saying, don't forget what this is. It was for the information about the taxes. And they took it upon themselves to enroll me in a monthly account that I did not authorize. It ended up being about $220 when you added up all the $9.95, $6.95, $28.95, all these random numbers. They were clearly being fishy because they did not want you to catch on to it was an automatic payment. So they kept changing the price. And so I called up the credit card company And they gave me a really hard time. And they're like, well, why didn't you notice this? I'm like, well, because it's Christmas time. I didn't notice it. And then I was like, bummer for being honest, because I told the lady the only thing I can think, and I'm not 100% sure, I'm 99.9% sure that that's how they got my information, was through that one time I was trying to find the property tax information. First of all, I would think it's fraud because they are pretending to be a government agency and they aren't. Okay? But the lady on the phone said, you technically gave them your information. This is a billing dispute. What? I thought I was giving my information to a government agency for a one-time fee. And that person, that company, took my information and billed me monthly. I did not sign up for something that's supposed to be like a club or some kind of promotion where it's like every month or anything. I did not. It was a one-time download. And I got billed every month since it was like April of 2024. And so all in all, because they kept changing the prices, I added up, it was over $220 for a download of the driver's manual, or no, for the download of my property tax information, which is free. That information is free. But I had a brain fart, and I thought, well, okay, I guess the county is starting to charge for this. Trust your gut, trust your instinct, and keep your eye on your statements. So the fraud department went ahead and they did reverse 3 transactions. And the third one might not go through. And that's because they said that according to the federal government, they can only go back 60 days for billing disputes. So it's really important you keep an eye on your stuff, because if you snooze, you lose. If you snooze, you lose. That money's gone forever. That's crazy. And it's a small amount, $200 over the course of time, but $200 adds up. I could use that money for my electricity bill. I could use that money for my gas. I could use that money for something else. We have a lot of bills, and no one can afford to be ripped off like this. So keep an eye on your information and be very careful not to give out your information anywhere. Like, honestly, don't give it out anywhere. Just assume that whoever is collecting that information is trying to steal from you. And I think it was like a year or two ago. This was crazy. I got some kind of fraud alert from American Express. And I'm going to say that this story, because with the name, because American Express saved me on this, because they sent me a message saying there's suspected fraud. And then Walmart sent me a message saying, we're not going to let you buy any more denture cream because we think you're trying to resell it for more money. It's really suspicious that you're trying to buy so much denture cream. What in the world? I don't have dentures. Why would I buy denture cream for like $17 to $20 a tube? That's insane. Somebody got into my account. I'm not sure. It's unclear to me if it was PayPal, because I had American Express set to my PayPal account. So it was either PayPal, American Express, or Walmart. But one of them, somebody got in and was spending my money to buy hundreds of bottles of denture cream, and then having it sent to Texas, Florida, Tennessee. I don't live there. I live in Washington. And they use different weird names for the billing address. They would use my first name and a different last name, or my real last name but a different first name. And then I got all of these notifications saying that the delivery, it was not deliverable, and it got sent back to the company. So I actually think it might have been the company. I think that whatever vendor was selling that cream on Walmart, I think they might have done it for themselves, because I was like, who will benefit from sending, you're paying money to send it somewhere to have it returned to you? And I was like, you know what? It might have been the vendor themselves, whoever was like selling and reselling, that middleman. They could have been charging me, and then they just act like they never got it back, right? So, but I was able to work with my credit card company, and I got the money back from them. Now I have a new strategy for using Walmart, and I'll tell you what that is, and also with using PayPal, that I think could save you a lot of money and headache with having to deal with these issues, because it's super stressful. If you catch it right away, like this one got caught right away, and I got my money back, but it was also a pain because they had to freeze my card. They actually canceled my card, sent me a new one, and then I had things on auto pay, and that just totally messed up everything. So my strategy is this: if you have a card loaded in PayPal, or if you have a card loaded in Walmart.com or Amazon or whatever, go in after you make a transaction and remove your card. So you're going to go in for your transaction, you put your transaction in, you go back into your account, and you remove your card. And you just do this every time. And I know it's a pain and it's a hassle. I know it's a pain and it's a hassle, but it's not as much of a pain and hassle as having somebody steal thousands of dollars from your account, which can and will happen. It can happen and it will happen. And if you have elderly family members, this is happening to them and they're not catching it. Ask them if you can help them look over their statements and verify that all the things they're being charged for are actually legitimate. So another thing I might do, so another thing that works is to lower the available credit on your cards. So I know my cards, they just keep wanting to allow me to have more because they want to trap you. Okay, that's a problem too. They want to trap you in the debt so that they constantly get your interest, right? So, but what you can do is have them lower the limit. So at least if someone steals from you, they can't steal that much, right? And if, let's say you have a $500 limit on your credit card and you have $450 already used and you're buying something for $20, at least you know they can't take more than $20. If they go over your limit, then that transaction gets declined. You get a notification saying it was declined, and you know why, because somebody is trying to take money out of your account that is not what you authorized. And then if you need a little bit more in your account, you just pay your credit card. Okay, if I need $70 instead of $50 to buy something, just pay a little bit more from your checking or your savings or checking to your credit card, and that way there's enough room on the credit card. But that way it won't go over the limit. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to explain? If they only can take a little bit, it's so much better. Then they can take that big bite, that really big bite, right? What else was I going to say? I had something else I wanted to tell you. There's just so much of this. That people are always trying to steal your money. And, unfortunately, and they might have a legitimate service or good, but they just want the funds. And if putting you on some kind of automatic withdrawal every month will get that for them, they might say yes when you said no. So keep an eye on those accounts. If you cancel a subscription, if you, for instance, when my son was in kindergarten and the whole COVID stuff happened, I had to homeschool him. And so I enrolled in 2 different online programs. Like, it was a curriculum vendor, not like a learning program. And he used them, and then he basically graduated from the content. It was no longer difficult enough. So I called up both companies and canceled on the same day. The one company canceled it, and the other company continued to bill me for 5 years. 5 years! I didn't notice it because the amount was only once a year. They billed me once a year for the full $100, and they broke it down into 2 payments of like 59 something and 49 something, so that it was actually the full amount was being broken down. It didn't ring bells for me. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's $100. It was $49.95 and something like that. And yeah, I got basically, I think I'm going to be getting back just like 1 month, if nothing. And at least they're going to be blocked from using my account. One of the frustrating things about that story is that I had called and canceled my credit card about 2 or 3 years into this situation. And I told them, I feel like people are using my money without my permission. I want a new card. And I got a new card. And even though I got a new card and they didn't have the right numbers, somehow they still got the money. And when I was talking to the people on the phone, when I called the company to talk about it, they said, oh, well, because it was an automatic payment and you had so many payments to them before, we thought it was legitimate. And I said, I canceled that card and got a new card so that it couldn't happen. And you still let them take money out of my account. I didn't know it was like that particular vendor, but I knew that there was money coming out of my account. The math didn't add up for me. And their comment was just that, oh, well, you canceled the account. You canceled the card, not the account. So I want to cancel all of my credit cards. And I want to cancel like all of them. Because even if you cancel a card, if that vendor has been paid from your account before, they can still take money out of your account because your account somehow recognizes that they have been there before. So changing your card number does not keep the thieves from taking your money if they ever got away with it beforehand. Isn't that insane? Like, I don't know how that can possibly work. And I feel like even if it's not something that they can go back and take that money back from that company, I feel like the credit card company should have to pay me back because I canceled that card. I got a new card. And they still let the people take money out of my account. So personally, I felt like the credit card themselves was responsible for that one since I had canceled the card. I also canceled my car insurance. I went with a better deal. And guess what? The car insurance company that I was with before for like 18 years, they continued to bill me after I canceled. My husband called with the Allstate agent to the other company in June. And in September, I called in August to verify that account was closed. And they said, you don't have an account anymore. You're good. And then I kept getting billed. I kept getting billed and billed and billed and billed and billed and billed. They charged me like $4,000 in bills that every month we would call and cancel that insurance. And they'd say, well, you have a vehicle on here that was part of the policy at some point, but you don't have insurance on it. It's not your job to insure a vehicle if I have canceled my policy. If it's broken down and Washington state law says that I don't have to have it insured, then I don't have to have it insured. I don't need to prove to that company that I have it insured somewhere else. And I told them this over and over and over again. And the last lady I talked to told me that I was lying. And I said, read me the transcript of what I said and what they said. And she read it and she said, well, it's perfectly fine because when you actually called in August, you asked if you had an account and he said no, but you didn't give them your policy number. So he was just mistaken. Well, he was mistaken. Did I say I was canceling my policy? Yes. Did he say I don't have an account anymore? Yes. So that sounds like you're trying to catch me and find some kind of loophole to keep charging me again and again and again for a policy that I have canceled. I canceled it. The Allstate representative canceled it. My husband canceled it. And I called again and again and again and again. And the woman called me a liar and said she was not going to give back any of the money. So finally, I started crying. Of course I did. It's crybaby sentimental homestead. I said, I'm not trying to be rude to you, but I don't know how you can't understand that I was clearly trying to cancel that account in June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. 7 months of trying to cancel that account. I have insurance with Allstate. I do not need to have insurance with a second car insurance company. paying $1,000 a month for car insurance total. Like, that is totally unnecessary. Cancel the account. I'm not paying for it anymore. I will close, and finally I said, I will close my bank account if you don't stop. And she's like, well, that doesn't seem necessary. I said, well, it seems necessary because I've asked you to stop taking money out of my account. This company is stealing from me. And she goes, don't talk about my company that way. What do you mean? If I tell you I canceled my policy and I don't want it anymore, and you're still billing me, you're still taking money out of my account when I said stop it, and I said stop the payment, and I said I don't want this company anymore. I've moved on. I have a different company now. And they keep billing and billing and billing and billing. I said, there's no other word for it. It's stealing. You can call it a billing dispute all you want to, but if someone's canceled the account, it's theft. So finally, the lady's like, okay, fine. I'll cancel the account. And she sent me an email, finally have proof that I canceled it, saying the account is closed and it's done, and that she reversed the charge that was going to come through that day. And she's like, but that's all I'm going to do. And she's like, not because she couldn't. She's like, the guy who talked to you was on my team and he's a nice person. I'm like, yeah, he was nice to me. He said, I can verify you don't have an account anymore. Like, he told me that. I was happy. I got off the phone, and the next month I got billed again. So I'm like, there's obviously a lack of training, a lack of communication, follow through on your guys' part, because we have followed through. She goes, well, you let it go for so long. I'm like, no, I didn't. We called you every single month. We've called every month since June to cancel that account. So we did our due diligence. You haven't done yours. Cancel the account. So, and I said, please escalate this to a manager. I'd like to talk to a manager. And she goes, you can't talk to a manager because managers don't deal with people like you. And I said, oh, what? People who are not happy with the service that they've gotten? Like, people who are not happy with being charged thousands of dollars for a service that they don't need? I said, you know what? If I had gotten in a car accident with that vehicle during that time period, I can guarantee you would have found a way to backtrack, cancel that account, and not pay for an accident. I guarantee it. And she's like, well, no, that wouldn't happen because you paid for it. I said, yep, you would have paid because I canceled it. I called like a dozen times to cancel that account, and you would have found a way to make sure that your company didn't pay for it, but you are going to charge me for a policy that I don't need. And so I said, please escalate this to a manager. Clearly you're not letting me talk to one, but at least can't escalate it. And guess what? At least they deposited $1,200 into my account. It was not the full amount, but I mean, it's better than $200. So you just got to keep being persistent and watch what companies you go with. The company I was with was a legitimate company. Like, I don't know. And I was with them for 18 years and I had no problems. But guess what? They never once had to pay out anything because I was a good driver. So 18 years of premiums, and they still wouldn't let me go. It was like a bad breakup. So I'm going to tell you right now that I don't like the billing dispute versus fraud. Like, that was fraud. Like, if a person has canceled their account, it's not a billing dispute if the people on the other side just won't actually end the account. They continue to keep drawing. Also, all of those virus protection companies, McAfee keeps billing me, so does Norton, and I don't have an account with them. And I've called my bank and I've tried contacting the companies, and they just won't stop. So I'm going to have to close my accounts, all of them, because they won't stop billing me, and I don't have them. I don't even have them. So I don't know if there's a company impersonating them who's stealing money on the other side. That's what I think is happening. I kind of feel like maybe somebody is cloning accounts, and is somehow getting money, and it looks like legitimate service. I'm like, I don't have them. I never purchased them. And it's coming out every year for about $100. So, it's crazy. Like, even legitimate companies. So this whole, like, everything's digital is such a waste of money. Keep an eye on your accounts. If that's all I can say is keep an eye on your accounts. Don't let it go 60 days. Never let it go. Never let it go a day. Like, if you can contact that person, the company, and your bank or your establishment with the same day it goes through, you might get it reversed. Be persistent until you get those fees reversed. And if they tell you no, just keep going and going and going and keep calling again. Maybe you'll get the right person on the line who actually has some kind of moral compass and will stop trying to rip us off. So, I'm not trying to disparage any companies, but watch out for your statements, even the small amounts, because they add up. It's like the really smart thieves, they steal a penny at a time, but from millions of people. And that's how they get rich. So, all right, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm trying to gripe. I just want you to know what you can do to possibly avoid these kinds of issues, because it has been a nightmare for us that we've gotten ripped off. And yes, we've gotten some little bit back, but not much, not the whole thing. All right, everybody. Be good, be sweet. Grow a garden if you want to eat. Keep an eye on those cards. Get rid of them. Get rid of them all. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time.